Imagine, you are the ultimate weapon of the Ice Age. You weigh 600 pounds. Your muscles are coiled like steel cables under a thick coat of tawny fur. And in your mouth, you carry two serrated daggers, 7 inches long, capable of slicing through the toughest hide in the Americas. You are the Smilodon, the Sabertooth, the king. But in a fraction of a second, everything goes wrong. Snap. That sound isn't just a broken bone, it is a death sentence. For decades, we looked at their fossilized skulls in museums and saw monsters. We saw invincible killing machines that ruled without mercy. But looking closer, we found something else. We found a fatal flaw. A paradox so confusing, it divided the scientific community for a century. The Smilodon didn't die out because they were weak. They might have died out because they were too specialized. Today, we're rewriting the biography of the most famous predator of all time. From the engineering of their bite, to the brutal wars they fought against giant bears and wolves, to the shocking truth about their family life hidden in the asphalt of Los Angeles. Forget what you think you know about the Sabertooth Tiger. The truth is far more terrifying. First, let's clear the air on a massive misconception. There is no such thing as a saber-toothed tiger. Smilodon fatalis is not a tiger, it's not a lion. It's a beast from a completely different ancient branch of the feline family tree, the Machairodontinae. And physically, it was built like a tank. Look at the skeleton. A modern lion is a runner, built for the chase. It is lean, agile, designed to run down gazelles on the open savanna. The Smilodon, it's a wrestler. Its front limbs were incredibly thick, robust, and heavy. They were designed for one purpose: immobilization. It didn't chase prey for miles. It ambushed them from the shadows, grappled them to the ground, and pinned them with raw, overpowering force. But the real engineering marvel and the mystery is the skull. A modern lion can open its mouth about 60 degrees. That is impressive enough to grab a throat. But the Smilodon, it could unhinge its jaw to a staggering 120 degrees. That is an alien-like gape, almost unhinging the jaw completely to clear those massive teeth. Why? Because of those sabers. Those 7-inch canines are the most iconic weapons in nature. But here's the shocker. They were incredibly fragile. They were flat, like knives, not round, like spikes. If a Smilodon bit into a struggling bone, snap. Game over. Broken teeth meant infection, starvation, and death. So how do you kill with glass daggers? You don't bite down, you strike forward. Biomechanical studies reveal that the Smilodon's bite force was actually weaker than a modern jaguar's. It didn't crush throats. Instead, it used its massive neck muscles, which were evolved specifically for this motion, to drive the upper jaw down in a slashing motion, like a pickaxe. It was a precision surgical strike to the carotid artery or the windpipe. Instant death, minimal struggle. It was efficiency perfected. We're about to dive into the brutal world that forged these monsters. But if you enjoy deconstructing prehistoric beasts, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We release deep dive documentaries every week. Now, let's step back into the Pleistocene. To understand the hunter, you must respect the arena. This was the Pleistocene, the American Serengeti. It was a world of giants that makes our modern wildlife look like miniatures. Roaming the plains were the Columbian mammoths, standing 13 feet at the shoulder. The giant ground sloth, a vegetarian tank the size of an elephant that could stand on 2 legs and fight back with hook-like claws. And vast herds of ancient bison, larger and more aggressive than their modern cousins. In this land of monsters, the Smilodon was the apex. But they weren't all the same. In North America, we had Smilodon fatalis, heavy, stocky, deadly, about the size of a modern lion, but twice as heavy. But travel south, across the land bridge to South America, and you meet the nightmare fuel, Smilodon Populator. The Populator was the largest cat to ever walk the earth. Some individuals weighed nearly 1,000 pounds. That is twice the size of a Siberian tiger. They were hunting beasts that no modern predator would dare to touch. They were the undisputed lords of the southern continent. But being the king doesn't mean you're safe. In the Pleistocene, every meal was a gamble, and every shadow could hide a rival. The Smilodon was never truly alone at the top. It was constantly looking over its shoulder. The Ice Age wasn't just a hunting ground, it was a war zone, and the Smilodon had two major rivals that made life a living hell. First, the heavyweights, the short-faced bear, Arctodus simus. Imagine a bear that on all fours is tall enough to look a human in the eye. On its hind legs, it stood 12 feet tall, a towering wall of muscle and fur. Smilodon was powerful, but against a short-faced bear, it was a losing battle. Paleontologists believe these bears were kleptoparasites, bullies who specialized in stealing kills. Imagine the frustration. A Smilodon clan spends hours stalking and taking down a massive camelops. They risk their lives, expending precious energy, and just as they are about to eat, a 1-ton monster walks out of the brush. This competition forced Smilodons to eat fast. They had to gorge themselves, eating up to 60 pounds of meat in a single sitting before the bullies arrived to steal their prize. But the second rival was even more dangerous, not because of size, but because of numbers. The dire wolf, Canis dirus, the fearsome dog. They were larger and more heavily muscled than modern gray wolves, with a bite force that could crush bone, something the Smilodon couldn't do. And they were everywhere. In the Brea Tar Pits, for every Smilodon found, there are 3 dire wolves. This suggests a constant violent turf war. Imagine the scene, a solitary Smilodon trying to defend a carcass against a pack of 20 dire wolves. The cat has the knives, but the wolves have the stamina, the coordination, and the sheer numbers. They would harass, nip, and swarm the cat until it was forced to retreat. This rivalry likely pushed the Smilodon further into social behavior. To fight a mob, you need a mob of your own. Here is where the story changes completely. For years, paleontologists assumed Smilodons were solitary assassins, like modern tigers or leopards, lone shadows in the grass, meeting only to mate or fight. But the tar pits in Los Angeles revealed a statistical anomaly that shattered that theory. For every herbivore found trapped in the tar, there were dozens of predators. This is called a predator trap. A mammoth gets stuck, cries out in distress, and rings a dinner bell for every predator in a 5-mile radius. But look closely at the Smilodon bones found here. Many of them show signs of horrific, chronic injuries. We see hip bones dissolved by arthritis, shattered legs that fused back together, teeth worn down to the gum. These injuries didn't happen at the moment of death. They heal. Ask yourself, how does a solitary predator with a broken hip survive for months in the brutal Ice Age? It can't hunt. It can't defend itself against a dire wolf. It can't walk to water. In the wild, a solitary cripple is dead in a week, unless it didn't have to hunt. This is the smoking gun for social behavior. The only way these crippled cats survived is if someone else brought them food. Someone else protected them from the wolves and bears. Smilodons weren't just killers. They were pack animals. They lived in clans, likely dominated by bonded pairs or coalitions of males. They cared for their sick. They protected their elderly. Suddenly, the monster becomes relatable. They had families. They had loyalty. So if they were strong, social, and perfectly engineered, why aren't they here? Why isn't a Smilodon stalking the bison in Yellowstone today? Around 10,000 years ago, the curtain fell on the age of mammals. It wasn't one thing, it was the perfect storm. First, the climate flipped. The world got warmer, then colder, then warmer again in a chaotic cycle. The lush grasslands turned to forests or deserts.
The vegetation changed. The megafauna, the slow, giant food source Smilodons were built to wrestle, began to vanish. You can't sustain a Ferrari engine on low-grade fuel. Smilodons couldn't chase small, fast deer or rabbits. They were too heavy. They were over-engineered for a world that was disappearing. And then, the new arrival. Us, the Clovis people. We were small, weak, and slow compared to a Smilodon, but we brought something new. We had projectiles, we had fire, and we had unprecedented coordination. We didn't hunt the Smilodon directly. We competed for its food. We targeted the same young mammoths and bison. The Smilodon, the undisputed king, found itself in a war on two fronts: starvation from climate change and resource competition from humans. Their specialization was their downfall. The Sabertooth were a master key that opened only one door, the door to giant prey. When that door closed, there was nowhere left to go.
The Smilodon reigned for millions of years. Their reign was 10 times longer than human civilization has existed so far. They are a reminder that evolution is not just about becoming the strongest, it's about being adaptable. In the end, the knife-toothed cats didn't fail. They were simply a masterpiece of a time that faded away. What do you think was the final nail in the coffin? Was it the competition from the dire wolves, the changing climate, or the arrival of humans? Let me know your theory in the comments below. I'll see you in the next era.